last run of the day of day one, I didn't take a hard fall. I didn't have a hard fall. It was a very nothing fall, and I slid down the hill. It was a steep double black diamond,
Of course it was.
lots of moguls. I swear it was a double black diamond. It was not the bunny hill. Um,
We'll never know.
Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast, where we help you move, excel, and inspire others on your journey to your next level with knowledge and advice from experts and testimonials from our like-minded community.
So, Ashley, welcome to our show. I'm so glad to have you on finally. I've met you a couple times here and there, being treated by Dr. Nick and our team. And what I want to know is, how exactly did your ACL journey happen?
Yeah, so I am a very active person.
Yes.
Always have been, participated in a lot of sports throughout my life. So I definitely had many opportunities to get injured, but never actually did. I was skiing with my family in January. We took our first trip out west since having kids. So my husband and I have skied our whole life. We had taken a lot of trips out west to ski together before kids, and our boys are 9 and 13. And they started skiing a few years ago. So they finally got to the point where we felt like we could take a family trip out west. So we booked a 4-day trip out to Park City, Utah around my husband's birthday. And at the end of day one, I decided to just go off on my own for one run. I love to be challenged on the ski slopes, and that may be the last time I ever challenged myself on the ski slopes. But last run of the day of day one, I didn't take a hard fall. I didn't have a hard fall. It was a very nothing fall, and I slid down the hill. It was a steep double black diamond.
Of course it was.
Lots of moguls. I swear it was a double black diamond. It was not the bunny hill.
We'll never know.
And I just my skis didn't release because the fall itself was very soft. So I slid with my skis on, and I think I don't really know what happened because no one saw me. But my body went one way, my knee went another way, I think. And when I finally came to a stop, because I slid for a while, I actually thought I was fine.
Mhm.
I wasn't in any pain whatsoever. A little scared from the fall, but not in any pain. And I actually tried to get up and keep skiing. And my knee just made a very unnatural movement. So I assumed it was because the hill was steep, and then slid down the rest of the hill on my bum.
Because it still wasn't hurting then.
It wasn't
close.
hurting. So
Yeah.
I thought there's no way something bad happened. But I got to the bottom of the steep part and tried to stand up again. My knee did the same thing. And someone skied up at that point and suggested maybe I should call ski patrol. So I did, and
Nice.
was one of those people who was taken down the hill in the toboggan.
You were, I
Yeah.
had a toboggan experience too when I was younger.
Really?
So I can totally empathize. Actually, it was my ankle at the time, but it's kind of fun and scary at the same time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm in pain. But although you weren't in pain.
I wasn't.
And,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't. They came to me and said, "Oh, you probably tore your ACL." And I said, "Oh yeah, no, that's not possible. I'm not in pain." And they said, "Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't mean anything." And I was
Exactly.
like, that was sort of when reality first kind of hit me, that I was like, "Oh, maybe this is actually bad."
Oh, man.
I really thought I was fine. I thought maybe I was just going to need a few days off, and
Right.
that obviously that's not what happened. But it was a bad injury. But anyone who skis knows it could have been a lot worse.
True story here, actually, Ashley. When I was actually an avid skier growing up, and when I was in graduate school, it's over 20 years ago now, we had gone in this section on ACL, and when I saw the stats, this is 20 years ago, of people ripping tearing their ACL, I was like, I think I'm done. I don't even like the cold weather.
Yeah.
I can be done with this, so I just stopped altogether. After
Well, after being injured and talking to people, you realize how many people have torn their ACL skiing, and it's slightly. I think almost everyone who's a skier has a friend or a family member who's torn an ACL skiing, and it's shocking when you actually start to talk to people, because you realize, I mean, listen, skiing is a risky sport, and you kind of know that when you're a skier, but It's easy, especially starting as a kid when you're fearless and nothing bothers you, and then nothing has happened to you for 20 to 30 years skiing. You kind of forget that these things can happen.
Yes.
So, um, but yeah, no, it is a very common injury. But that being said, I am going to ski again. So
I'm
that's where you and I
glad.
diverge.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I want you to. This is why you're actually taking, going full 9 yards with us and just really
Yes,
trying to
one
get
of
to
the
that
many
point.
reasons. But yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so I'm so glad that you have actually made a lot of progress. But let's back up for a second. When you did fall down, you finally came to reality that your ACL was no longer with you.
Mhm.
What happened then? You saw a physician? You saw an orthopedic? What was the next stage?
Well, I didn't know for several days. I was still convinced it wasn't my ACL, and that the doctors didn't know fully because they couldn't do an MRI immediately. So I had to wait. My family skied the rest of the weekend in Park City, which I'm so glad about, because the thing that I was most upset about, I was actually crying when the ski patrol got to me. And my biggest thing was, I looked at them and I said, I'm a mom and I'm not supposed to mess up my family's vacation. It is my responsibility to make sure I keep the vacation happy, and I've just messed it up. And so I kept saying to them, I'm not crying because I'm in pain. I'm crying because I feel like a terrible mom. And I think they maybe thought I was in shock, but I wasn't.
Oh, my goodness.
But anyway, so my family skied the rest of the time, which I was so relieved about. And I was actually able to walk around with the brace on a little bit. So I was like, oh, if it was bad, I wouldn't be able to walk without crutches. And so I came back, then saw a doctor in New York City, and they did an MRI, and the results came back that it wasn't just my ACL. It
Oh,
was a complete tear of my ACL, an almost complete tear of my MCL,
no.
and a partial tear of my meniscus. So
It's the unhappy triad, we call
yeah,
that. Oh, my
I
goodness.
just like to live by the motto, like, if like you really got to do things, you gotta be all in. So like that's always how I am, and I feel like my knee injury is just like representative of that.
That is such a cool story, kind of.
So yeah, I mean, when I got the results, I was slightly horrified because you read I actually got the doctor's report on the portal before I had the doctor to talk to.
Yes.
So the report itself sounded horrific.
Yeah.
The final result was very run of the mill for the doctors I was
Sure.
dealing with. What sounded like was awful to me was pretty standard to them.
So it's almost like it kind of normalized everything. So it's like, oh, I'm not the only one,
yes,
which is great.
yes, it was a relief to know that they had dealt with something like this a lot of times in the past, and that this wasn't going to be something that was too out there for them.
Excellent. Now you've had this diagnosis. It's interesting because our very own James, I'm sure he told you his
Mhm.
story.
Yep.
So oftentimes either physical therapist, physician, or athletic trainer will be on the scene of some sort of something where they'll be the first point of contact to actually diagnose the ACL. And there are a couple of tests that are pretty definitive as far
Mhm.
as whether or not you have an ACL tear and how bad it can be, along with the other friends that also got torn in this whole ordeal here. So after this happened, you went to you got your surgery.
Mhm.
How did you end up finding Next Level? Because you've had physical therapy in the past before.
Yep. Well, the doctor who diagnosed me said basically gave me two things to do. He actually they told me, I think even before I had booked the appointment, or the day I booked the appointment, that I should start doing physical therapy.
Yeah.
So I think a week to the day after I actually injured my knee was when I started doing the research on physical therapists in the area.
Yeah.
Because they had told me that doing pre-surgery physical therapy was extremely important.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, actually, honestly, because a lot of people out there just think that, oh, just wait till after the surgery. But
Mhm.
I can tell you from having done this for over 20 years that our best outcomes from a surgery of any kind often are the best outcomes when we have people prehab for at least a couple of weeks before the surgery.
Yep.
And it actually, it's crazy because it actually makes the recovery faster. The expectation there's less uncertainty, there's less worry because like, oh, what's physical therapy? That's all been now taken care of. There's now more comfort because now you're with a provider that you trust. So that after the surgery, it becomes, okay, so now what's the next step?
Yep, absolutely. So how did I find you guys? So after the injury, I let myself have like 24 hours to be super upset. And so I talked to some people that I knew who have either worked with athletes or have had injuries or kind of are athletes of their own. And a friend of mine who had a similar injury, worse than mine, but similar, about 10 years ago, and she was 50 when it happened. I'm 40. She said, the best piece of advice I can give you, Ashley, is to find a physical therapist who works with athletes. and treat physical therapy as though it's as important as a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I trust her because she and I are very similar in terms of our level of movement and energy and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, she's my person. I trust her. So the first thing I did was, okay, find a physical therapist who works with athletes. And I did what everyone does. You kind of Google and look around the area, but there's so many places. There's just so many. So I actually put a post up on a local page here in New Jersey, just asking, hey, does anyone have a physical therapist recommendation? I'm specifically looking for someone who works with athletes. I got a lot of recommendations. And so I basically just went to each website
Oh, nice.
and then looked at the reviews for
Yes.
each recommendation.
Huge.
And the second I landed on Next Level's
Mhm.
website and Google reviews, it was like, I have found my people. I want, not only do I want to know them, I can tell they're awesome, but I could just tell it was all the reviews. It's like, they just all have a similar, they all sort of say the same thing. And it's very reflective of the experience that I've ended up having
that's
here.
great.
So it was a combination of the two. It was like, your website very much spoke to me, and that this is a place that works with athletes. And yeah, I'm not an athlete from the standpoint of I don't play an organized sport or anything like that, but I'm extremely active.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted someone who was going to basically kick my butt and not let me, push me as much as possible within the confines of my injury.
I love how you said that because when we started Next Level, it was with that premise of, listen, there are places for the average person, there are places for basic care, and they're all around. And these are the places that you see 4 to 5 patients an hour. I've been there before for myself. I've worked in those places, so I know what basic care looks like. But when we created Next Level, it was for something a lot greater. It was for exactly what you said. We want to see the kind of person who really cares about that next level for themselves. It's about being transformed through the process, about getting back to where you are, but actually better than ever is the goal that I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not satisfied if you're just on the bunny slopes. Actually, that's not where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want you rocking the black diamonds again, double diamonds, fearless again, just like you are, and totally just confident that your knee is going to hold up. And that is what the entire foundation of our practice lies on.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I will be back out there.
Yes.
I may be a little more careful in the future. And I think Dr. Nick will kill me if I'm not. So
Not you again.
I know. But no, I plan to be back out there. And I love that that's the way you guys operate. And it's what drew me to you, what's kept me here happy, and what I think will allow me to continue to recover well. And so I appreciate you actually building a place like this, because I think it stands alone. And I think what you've done is incredible.
Oh,
so
thank you so
I feel
much.
lucky to be a patient here.
Well, we're lucky to have you too, honestly. Like you're exactly the kind of person we want to attract, somebody who really is active and athletic. We really don't care about age. And like for me, if anything, myself being close to 50 now, I am trying to live the most optimized version of myself. And I'm still going at it pretty hard. So I'm like, I can only imagine what it's like for us as a community of people and providers to be able to do that for the clients that we have. So that's sort of the vision behind it.
Absolutely. That's great.
So tell us about, like, you've had physical therapy in the past. Can you tell us 1 or 2 things, maybe 3 things that might separate Next Level Physio from other places you've been to?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this was a very profound injury, and doesn't compare necessarily to some of the issues I've had in the past, but I think the biggest differentiator for me versus other places is every single time I come in, my exercise program is different. So it builds on what I did the last time and what I did the last time. And yeah, if I struggle with an exercise, maybe we actually modify it down the next time. Most of the time we're modifying it up because I like to lift weights, and my body is enjoying that. But but I love that every time I come in, I never know exactly what I'm going to be doing. And Dr. Nick does an amazing job for me of keeping things different and interesting. And he challenges me enough without it being painful. I've never once been in pain here in anything that I've done, outside of the surgery and, some very basic like the days post-surgery. But other than that, I've never been to a physical therapist where every time I come in, I'm not saying for 1 week we're going to do this. And that, I mean, every single time I come in, it's a different
I
program. And
love that.
that's,
Yeah.
I know I'm one of a lot of patients here.
Mhm.
So if my program is changing, I know generally that's what you do with everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that is so unbelievably impressive because that's extremely hard
Yeah.
to execute. I think there's a level of just personal attention here, and that's from everyone who works here, from you down all the way to the PT aides. People know things about my kids. People know things about my weekend. I know things
Yeah.
about there's just this sort of familial environment where, and it's because people genuinely care. It's
Yeah.
not because they're trying to be fake or anything like that. It's just, it feels like you're coming in to like hang with your friends, and it's
Yeah.
not boring for that reason. I mean,
Right.
that's one of the things that keeps me coming back is
Yeah.
like, it's not boring.
Yeah.
I look forward to asking, oh, how was the wedding this weekend?
Yeah.
And things like that. It's enjoyable being here. And
Yeah.
I'm now down to 2 days a week here from 3 originally, but I'm now just over 3 months out post surgery, but I did 5 weeks of prehab before that. And
Yeah.
so I've been coming for
Yeah.
a long time. I have a full-time job. I've got 2
Yeah.
kids. I'm a full-time volunteer. Like,
Wow.
got a lot going on
Yeah.
in my life. So I have every reason to make excuses not to
Yes.
come. And it's not, haven't even gotten close to that point yet where I'm like, oh, I have to go to PT today. Like, oh
Yeah.
God, this is frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think that's the two differentiators for me. It's just a level of care here that is above and beyond what I think you find in a lot of other places.
Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot, actually. And it's commonly what a lot of people say. They feel like they're in a community. They feel like they're in family. They feel like they're with their friends, like you said. And that's exactly the feel that we want, because I've been in places, I've worked in places where it's not that way. It's very much like people are in their silos and people are just trying to get past the next patient. And I understand that kind of patient churn is just really not fun. But that's exactly why we want to differentiate ourselves. Because if you think about it, I mean, this journey of rehab, it's long, especially after a surgery.
Yeah.
You better be liking the people that you're with.
Totally.
Because it's going to give you, like I said, a reason to skip out on rehab, which will then
Right.
set your outcomes back. Because you're like, well, I'll skip PT today. Now you set your back a week or two, possibly.
Yep.
Because you've decided that this is not as much a priority. And then you have these other kinds of secondary issues that can sort of come about. And that is what's going to bring down your outcomes, which will be like, oh, well, I went there and I didn't really get the outcomes that I wanted.
Right.
Well, I can see why. If you didn't want to go there, it's boring.
Yep.
You're doing the same stuff, getting cookie cutter exercises.
Yeah.
Freaking, all that kind of stuff. So that's everything you just said means a lot of music to my ears, because it's exactly what we're trying to establish here. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. Well, it comes from the top. So you've done an incredible job with the business. And I say that as I think because we've spoken before, I'm a small business owner.
Yes.
I'm not a small business owner that's tied into such a, like, I don't want to say like sort of life and death. People's bodies are extremely, you have to have a certain level of skill and expertise.
Yeah.
But I know what it takes to run a small business,
Yes.
and it's not easy.
Yeah.
And you layer how important the actual physician element
Yes.
of that on top of this, and it's
Yeah.
even harder. So
Yeah.
it does, it does come from the top, and you should feel proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So tell me, Ashley, I think you touched on a couple of good things as well. And I want to point this out because on our podcast yesterday, we actually interviewed Katie Zafaris, who's an Olympian, which is amazing. And she herself is still a working mom. So she's trying to train and do all this stuff. She's a new mom. So she is trying to juggle now a young child, lack of sleep.
Yep.
You and I have been through this.
We have been
we're better
there.
parents,
I
we
think
know
we've
this.
come out on the other side, but yes, we have been there.
Yes, we have. So, tell us how, like, managing your business plus managing family, how does that work as far as getting this into your schedule too?
Yeah. So, I mean, like everything else, it's a matter of balance. I think I am very fortunate to have some help at home with my kids, and with some of the stuff we have at home. We have 2 dogs as well that need walks, 2 golden retrievers, so they're active dogs. I want to be very upfront and honest that we do have someone who helps us at home, because my husband has crazy hours working in the city and traveling and whatnot. And my business is actually in Connecticut. I live in New Jersey, so I don't go in every day, but when I do go in, it's essentially a 2-hour commute round trip. And my boys are in activities and whatnot. So there is a lot going on, but I just want to put it out there that I do have a I am very lucky that I have some help at home because I don't think I could manage it without that. This was, I would say the PT for me is a non-negotiable, and it's sort of the way I feel about exercise in general.
Yeah.
And that's partly that I love exercising.
Yeah.
It started when I was younger as a way, I think it was more of a physical thing. I'm in my 20s. I want to look good, that sort of thing. And it's evolved over time into a mental thing. So for me, it is my mental health. If I can go one day without working out, I can't really go 2 days because it's just a release for me. I have a lot of stressors in my life. Nothing bad. It's all a lot of good stuff. I kind of like to say like I'm blessed to be stressed because I do. I have a lot of
That's gotta be a t-shirt.
Yes, I've got a lot of really great things, but juggling it all is extremely stressful. And that's how I get my stress out is by working out. So it just is something I do. And I think PT falls into that bucket for me. I think it's good. They go hand in hand because I want to get back or even be better than I was before the injury. And so that I can go back to doing things I love. Like I just started Orange Theory last fall.
Nice.
Had to stop that with the injury. I loved doing that. And my sister and I did it together and had the best time together. And so if I don't commit to PT now, I'm not going to be able to get back to those things. So it goes hand in hand. Like I can see that in order to get there, I have to do the PT. I'm also kind of under the, like for me, it was always anything they tell me to do, I'm going to do because if my recovery isn't this linear recovery or takes some twists and turns, I don't want it to be because anything I didn't do.
Sure.
I just want it to be because that was meant to happen. But so it's just, for me, PT is just, it's a non-negotiable. And fortunately you guys are amazing and flexible. How, I'm not sure, but I always, when I need to move something, have been able to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah,
so
we definitely try to make it work for our clients because we do prioritize for our clients too.
Right. But it's, moving things around. Everyone wants the, evening slots after work. So yeah.
That's cool. It's funny. You touched on two things, and I have to say that we have a parallel sort of motivation between exercise, because for me too, in the past, it was definitely for this physical sort of thing. But as a business owner myself, I do also agree that it is my mental health, mental stabilizer, if you will, because there's so much that I'm dealing with on any given day that if I don't get that in, I'm a very cranky person.
Yes.
You don't want to be around daddy when you're cranky. It's almost as bad as being hangry.
Exactly.
It's the worst.
It's the same. It's a really good parallel. I agree with you.
And that's one thing. And the other part of it, what I love about your whole attitude is towards this is that you actually have this little accountability to yourself. And obviously we hold you accountable too, as far as being your partner in your journey. But on your side, you also own this. Like I'm going to own this physical therapy part for myself because I want to get back to those things because they do give me the mental health that I want to have in my life right now. And so because of that, you've also had the self-driving mechanism inside of yourself that helps you to continue on this path.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
But, to get back to your original question, when you have small kids, it's really hard.
Right.
It just is. And I honestly think if I could go back in time and tell myself then, I had so much pressure on if I got up to do a workout, but my son woke up earlier than usual, I would beat myself up for not waking up even. How did I not anticipate that he was going to wake up early? And I think we're so sleep deprived and so hard on ourselves. And I'm in better shape now than I actually was before having kids, like much better shape. Like I was in good shape then, but I am in tremendously better shape now than I was way back then. So I wish I could just tell myself, like, give it time and give yourself grace, because like sometimes sleep is actually in that period, in that very acute, I have babies, toddlers period. Sometimes sleep is more important than working out.
100%.
And I probably lost a lot of sleep in those early years that I should have given myself and just cut myself some slack, because I wish I could say, well, look, in a few years, you're going to be in better shape than you are now.
Right.
So don't worry. I always thought it was like, if you lost it, you would never get it back. That is so not true at all.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of misinformation we provide ourselves about this unforeseen future.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened yet, number one. But number two, obviously you are proof that you have proven to yourself that you can do what you wanted to do and get to this level that you wanted to get to. It's funny because one of the things that Katie mentioned yesterday on our podcast also was that just the fact that sleep is such a big factor in recovery. And a lot of us, especially in Bergen County, I know this culture very well. it's hard to get it in, or we don't have a built-in sleep hygiene sort of habit or ritual that we put in. So for example, turning off your phone, all electronics a couple hours before you go to bed, and having some sort of quiet time for yourself so you can get into the right sleep state is so important. And that's so deprived. But, for any parents out there, I just want to tell you, listen, a big part of physical therapy, a big part of fitness is actually making sure they do get that sleep and recovery, because that in itself could be what is the missing element to your recovery.
Absolutely.
All our good hormones, all the recovery hormones do get secreted at night. And if you're not getting good rest, that's definitely going to be something that impedes your ability to get better.
Absolutely. It's a great point.
Yeah. So finally, we want to find out, Ashley, because we are foodies here. It is one of our core values. Like we are foodaholics. But I want to know, what are your top 2 or 3 guilty pleasures when it comes to, rewarding yourself, if you will?
Okay. So food wise, so I would say my top, it depends how specific you want me to get, but I love dessert.
Oh my God.
Like dessert, I can eat. I should take a step back. I'm a very healthy eater.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I feel best when I'm eating healthy.
You gotta live.
But I can't go one day without having something like chocolate. Like for the most part, I eat really healthy during the day, and then I have dessert after dinner. And I love chocolate. I love chocolate chip cookies. My favorite thing in the world, my biggest guilty pleasure, is chocolate chip cookie cake, because it's super soft.
Yes.
And then you cut a slice and you put it in the microwave. So it warms up and it gets even softer. And then you put a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top. It is quite possibly the best thing in the world.
I'm so glad. Let me tell you about mine. And everyone knows I'm a donut freak, but I love getting a glazed donut, cutting it in half like a bagel, toasting it so that on the outside gets crusty, caramelized, a little creme brulee-ish kind of thing, vanilla ice cream.
Stop.
Bomb.
That sounds so
that
good.
Is like one of my guiltiest pleasures, but that's exactly what you're talking about.
It's so funny you say that, because one of the first, I think it was after my surgery. Yeah, because someone was driving me here. I think maybe my husband was driving me here. Whatever it was, I said, it was like 10 a.m. Friday. I'm going to stop and get them Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh yeah.
Which is maybe the best donuts in the world, but whatever. It's right in our town. I was driving by. I thought it was the nice thing to do. My husband said, why don't you get them donuts? Do you see how fit they all are? None of them there eat donuts. So I love that you said that.
Oh my God,
totally. Who doesn't eat donuts?
That's so funny.
So yeah, no, it's all my guilty pleasures are sweets related.
Love it.
I think all the savory stuff for me is like take it or leave it. Like, and I can have a bite and then leave it. But you put dessert in front of me and that's where my eyes get big. And my husband always jokes that I get this like smile this funny smile when you put dessert in front of me.
That's so awesome.
So yeah, there you go.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. It was a pleasure having you on our show, and thank you so much for sharing your entire ACL journey. Again, we're so glad that people like you who are active and athletic, over 25, we'll say, are here, because we do know that it does get harder and harder with time to be able to be the best version of ourselves. And when you are working with somebody who also believes that we can help you maintain that or get to that best version of yourself, it just makes your journey much sweeter.
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for, as I've said before, thank you for creating a place that in this moment of adversity in my life has been this sort of positive sweet spot. And I would never go back and wish an ACL injury on myself, but I do have to say that having your team in my life over the last few months has been a positive factor. So I don't know how to say, I don't want to say I'm glad I tore my ACL.
Right.
That's not the case, but I feel very fortunate that I have this business in my life and your people. And so thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks again, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. It really does mean a lot to us. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or comment if you got at least 1 or 2 helpful insights or takeaways to help you get to your next level.